We're live. No. Yes. Go live.
Goes live, yep.
Hang on 2 seconds. Just having a little trouble getting onto Twitter tonight, but we are live, and I'm here tonight with Wayne Slattery. Wayne's going to give us a quick rundown of the recent landholder negotiation scheme going on, and let us know what he thought about the whole process. Go ahead, Wayne.
You want my honest opinion what I thought about the whole process? You did ask me not to swear earlier.
Wayne, we're just having a little bit of trouble with your audio. If you just slow your talking down a little bit. Yeah.
The process last week was very disappointing, to say the least. I don't think I'd be the only one who thought that. The DPIE were unable or unwilling to answer many questions to give us more clarity about what will happen with the easements, the financial impact statements, and the total cost. I've asked them what is budgeted for this program, and I can't seem to get an answer. We know that the federal government is funding it, the state is not funding it, and I have been told that Tanya Plibersek is expecting to pay a lot of money through. We're doing more research on that at the moment. But as far as the DPIE are concerned, they haven't answered those questions as yet. I've got a few big concerns with the easements. One of them is what will happen with those easements. Are they going to turn around if this program scheme fails, as I think it's destined to? Are they going to turn around and make us rent them back as enclosure permits? Are they going to then charge us to have to use these easements? These things they have to be answered. What's your view, Ingrid?
What do I think?
Yeah,
I think there's way too many question marks to know exactly what they're going to do should the plan fail. The problem with the easements is that they are for perpetuity, that is forever. There are other options that they could be looking at doing. For instance, lease agreements with landholders. In that case, if the Reconnecting Rivers flooding our farms doesn't work out how they wanted it to, they could potentially just, finalise those leases and be done with it. But as it stands right now, the easements will be forever. And if the Reconnecting Rivers and government planned by design flooding doesn't actually come to fruition, or they do it once and find out that it's devastating, get a lot of public backlash from community, because community has not been consulted. I think that we're going to be stuck with these easements on land forevermore. Yeah,
100% my concern. People have to also look at their mortgage documents. Some mortgage documents have clauses that if a government makes a decision to do anything such as an easement that devalues your property, then therefore you are in default of your loan terms, regardless of whether or not you've been making payments. And for anyone who says, that'll never happen, have a look at Bank West in 2009 and 10 when they sold mortgage books to the Commonwealth Bank. The LVRs got a bit tight because they were commercial loans, and some of the commercial property in 9 and 10 after the GFC took a hit, and the banks done what they call a book clearing, and they just went, we don't want those assets there, we deem them high risk, so we're just going to sell them up. And there was businesses all around the country who were sold up by the bank simply because the LVR changed. Now, I read a clause in a contract last week that specifically states an easement over your property gives the right for the bank, if they feel they need to sell you up. These things are definitely not being talked about by the department, but they should be.
So for those that don't know, the LVR is what, Wayne?
Sorry, the loan to value ratio of your property. So if you owe 100,000.
So when you take a, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you owe $100,000 and the property's valued at $200,000, the LVR is 50%. Now, rural and commercial land usually has a lower loan to value ratio than residential land because mortgage insurers don't want to touch it. The banks will self-insure the loan for mortgage insurance. So, but these are things that do have to be taken into consideration, and the department hasn't. Well, from the information I'm getting, they haven't considered them at all. And they are.
So have you seen financial impact statements on any of this?
I've been asking for them, and they're saying that individual financial impact statements are to be done at the time of negotiation, is what I'm understanding. So when they come in and say, we're going to put this across your property, then you go and get a financial impact statement. The problem with that is it tells me, and I could be wrong, but the government they're entering into this scheme with zero idea of the effects it will have on the communities surrounding the river, zero effects it'll have on the businesses that they are interfering with. I think that's very dangerous for a government to be so reckless in their decision making.
So where to now? I guess what advice would you give to people who are potentially looking at having an easement either negotiated or forced upon them in the near future? I think that they were talking about February, the start of the rollouts for offering people money for easements. And I, as far as I'm aware, they're going to start with a handful because they understand that there's not going to be enough professionals around in order to cope with the background financial stuff that's going to go along with this, like enough rural property valuers, for instance. So what would your advice be to people?
Get involved and resist as much as you can. I did hear in the consultation last week that 150, they were going to start in February with 150 landholders. It was unclear as to who they were or where they were. That raises the question of equality. Is the first 150 going to be a generous offer, and the last 150, when the government runs out of money and realise how expensive this is going to be, do they get shafted? There's the Just Terms Act, in my opinion, should be renamed the Unjust Terms Act because it doesn't give landholders many rights whatsoever.
And they're looking at changing it.
Well, some of the recommendations there, like some people read that and think they're trying to change it to be fairer to the landholder, and others read it and say they're doing it so they can, for another term, bend the landholder over. This is a Labor government, so I'm thinking the latter rather than the former. They obviously don't respect river farmers, river communities, towns around the river. This will have what's Murrumbidgee worth $5 billion in income to the country? If they take that, I think the figures I've sort of been looking at, I've heard some economists say primary production has a tenfold effect in the economy. So $5 billion will be $50 billion in real terms to the economy. Government spending has a threefold effect. So if it'll be spent 3 times before it runs out, the effect of it runs out. So I think people should get really involved, lobby your local members, let them know that and anyone with any media on this every day, with pressure on the politicians. I don't know whether much of the whole process to me for the consultation and the submissions, I don't have a lot of faith in it because they're already saying we're going to do the consultations. I think one lot of consultations we got 3 days notice. I think it was, wasn't it? 3 working days. Then we had. I got an email today, but I haven't read it about an extension of the period, and I unfortunately haven't had time to read it. Now, but it still tells me that they're not genuine in their attempt here because they're still saying, regardless of what we say, they're going to start negotiations in Feb. So we could put together the best environmental case to say how much this will ruin productive farmland, how it will affect the local ecosystem. Like, you have a think how many more mosquitoes will be around, how many more snakes will be around, how many more bugs will be around, and how that affects the current ecosystem. And this country was never, ever, it hasn't evolved from a swamp. It's evolved from flood and drought. That's simple. Have a few good years, have a drought with flood. That's how the whole has been. If you read Charles Sturt's book, he mentions that in the Murrumbidgee River, there was a gum that was 2 foot across the base. Now, that tree would have had to be 20 years old in the riverbed. So it's just I think the plan's been developed from ideology from people who've never been down here. I don't know who's actually come up with this plan, but from my eyes, it's crazy. So get involved with your write letters to media, write letters to the local members, write letters to the upper house members. Try and express to them the failings of DPIE and local land services on the consultation process. So many people claim they haven't been consulted or they're not getting the answers that they've asked, and hold them to account. Hold them to account to the Public Service Code of Conduct, where they have to, and 1st of November, this is a mandatory code as well. They have to show trust, honesty. The biggest one is diplomatic process. Democratic process. And none of this is democratic. This is totalitarianism at its worst.
So you think as they roll the negotiations out down the river, potentially they might be offering more money to begin with. Do you think that those that hold out would, I'm getting sort of conflicting information about some other rollouts that have happened. Some people have held out and got more money for easements, and I have been told that other rollouts have had the complete opposite effect. Do we know how much money they've got in order to roll this out?
This is what I'm saying is they haven't done any financial impact statements. As far as I'm aware, I can't find any information on how much is budgeted for compulsory acquisitions. They have very sparse in any information they put forward on the finances of it. Not to mention the effects it will have on local public health because of waterborne disease, mosquito-carried diseases. And, you know, you look at the last 2 years down, last 2 summers, this summer will be different. This summer, I feel this summer will be back to a nice hot summer that we normally have. But the last 2 summers, 22 when we had the flood, and 23 there was still a bit of moisture about. The summers were quite humid, and this year we're back because it's dry. We're going to be back to a nice hot summer. A lot of people down here live down here because they don't like humidity. Is that going to cause other health? These are questions that they haven't even looked at because they have not been able to answer them in consultation. You would think as such a radical, harebrained scheme, they would have done a bit more homework of how much is it going to cost? Roughly how much do we got to, like you said, why can't they lease it? If they do a 10-year plan, lease it for 10 years, and then if it doesn't work, they can go away, we get our land back, we don't have to worry about getting an easement off our place. But in the question they answered the other day, it doesn't give longevity. Well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, like, so, which tells me that they have other, me being very sceptical of what any government or public service department tells me, from experience, if they told me it was raining, I'd have to check for myself. I believe they've got other plans for these easements down the track. And once they've got the easements, it's a lot easier to change what they're used for, change what they... I was told by... Go on.
Sorry. Yeah, I spoke to someone not that long ago in the United States, and they mentioned to me that easements can be sold, and that was the first time that I'd really thought about, you know, it is an asset. They are taking an asset off us, and potentially down the track they may sell it to someone else. Who knows?
Exactly, and she didn't call me a conspiracy theory, but she hinted on that when I brought up the cultural water matters. And in those documents, it clearly states that they're going to create opportunities for Indigenous people to do horticulture and aquaculture. Well, how are you going to create land-based opportunities for anyone unless you buy it or reclaim it? Things that
where does that land come from?
Exactly. You know, it's making land's a bit like making gold. If you could do it, it wouldn't be worth that much. So
yeah, my father always said to be buy land, they don't make it anymore.
That's right.
Australian government's found some magical cure to make land.
I find it like I'm seeing a lot of similarities with what this government's doing to Stalin's 1928 Great Cultivation, which cost Russia and put Russia into great economic distress. Millions of people died of famine. Mao's 1958 5-year Great Leap Forward, where he wanted to get the farmers off the land so everyone had an opportunity to work on the land, the smart, educated people to work on the land. And estimates are 30 to 45 million people died during that period, and famine and economic collapse. And even South Africa, when they took the land off the farmers and gave it back to the Indigenous people there, that created bloodshed, all sorts of social turmoil. They're still suffering from, and that was in the 90s. So this government it seems to be a radical left idea based in that's been blessed with angel dust and fairy farts. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of research, science, or anything behind it.
So I guess encouragement for people to go and have a look at their mortgages, see what's actually stated in there, find out
Usually have a look
where your loan is at.
Yep. Have
Go
a look
ahead,
under
sorry.
have a look under your, especially specifically where you find this stuff under default. You'll have a section in your mortgage which relates to default and what can constitute a default. Make sure that you're not too close to the wire with your loan to value ratio, because your bank might not approve it. They might actually have to take you, like people might not get any money. The bank will take it all to strengthen their position. It just depends on, like some farmers are got a lot of money invested and a lot of money borrowed on their farms. So, you know, it's I can see a lot of economic trouble coming from this scheme.
So just backing up a little bit there, you said that the bank might take the money. So if the government comes along and offers you money for your easement and you have a mortgage on your land title, the bank would need to give consent to that mortgage, to that easement coming onto that land title, and therefore they would put in a stipulation as to where the money is to be deposited. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that could happen. The loan contracts of last week, definitely that would happen. If the say if your place is worth $1 million, you owe 650. That'd be, for most rural places, that might be at the limit. And they offer you 200. Well, they say, well, you've got to pay that down to protect the bank's position, because they don't want to go that 65%. So it does depend. Like some banks, you know, in recent decades, the LVRs have changed. They've gone up and down on home loans, on farm loans. But if someone's a bit closer to it, they might not get it. If people think, oh, I'll just take the money and buy a new tractor or go around the world on a holiday, you might be able to.
Yeah. Because the bank will gobble it up and you won't get any of those wonderful things that you're thinking you might spend the money on.
And I think you were saying, I think I heard you say that they will make the offer, and then any capital works you need to do on your property will be taken out of that offer. So if they offer you 200,
I have read that.
Yeah, so if they offer you 200,000 and you've got to build a road so you can access your property in the wet times, like I would have to, I'd have to raise it up probably 8 feet, because I'd lose access to most of my property that's on the river flat. And they say it's 100,000 to fix it. Well, how do I negotiate that with the bank? Like it raises, these are things that may not be an issue, but if you're a little bit close to the wire, it could be.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. I guess we've got another round of webinars or so on. So I would be encouraging people to get their questions together and be ready for the next sort of round. I think they're doing live consultations in Darlington Point and another one in Griffith. So if you can get down there and ask them in person, great. If not, jump on to the webinar. I think there's going to be another one, a Wagga one. But I mean, it doesn't matter where you're sitting on the other side of the computer. Highly recommend you get your questions together, work out your own financial position, where you stand, push back if you don't want easements. Push back as hard as you can. We do have the website www.saveourrivers.org.au. There is now an association set up. It is Save Our River Dwellers Inc. So that will we'll probably be offering memberships to that association in the near future. The website is evolving all the time, so keep checking back there. We will put news up there as it comes in. There is quite a few people working in the background in different areas, and yeah, we're trying to make people aware, because there's a lot of people that have river country that still don't know about this. Or alternative, they've been involved in another one of Water New South Wales's rollouts, and they're confused that they think they've finished, and there is actually something else that they could be involved in. Wayne, do you have any last thoughts before we sign off? We're nearly at the half an hour mark, so we will, sign off here.
Just one point that if people are going to write to their local member or an upper house member in New South Wales or a federal member about this, please be respectful and to the point. If we start throwing abuse, we'll lose their support. But don't be afraid to send it to a Labor. Like, this is a Labor plan, or Labor's delivering this plan. Please don't be afraid to send it to Labor MPs and upper house members and senators, because they're worried about their jobs too. If we can make this an election issue and federally as well, because the money's coming from Tanya Plibersek, we can change it there. But if you've got a Labor member, send them too, because I think what we need to do is make Labor marginal seats a target to go and help people who are helping our cause to get elected. Because if we can change a few seats and change the government, and they know it's because of our input, then they will have to rethink, because these politicians love power. That's the only way we can make an impact, is to take the power from them, and we take the power from them at the ballot box. So don't be, if you're okay with it, I'd like to put maybe a template for people to get ideas off. Don't do a form letter. Get ideas off on things to discuss when a lot of farmers have already written to their members and their experience. Some are not. I'm talking to people who haven't. Please get active, make noise, write letters to the media. If you've got friends and family in the media, get onto them, get them onto this. We need as many voices and as many eyes on this as possible, and we need to look at the bigger picture, the long-term financial impacts of this scheme.
All right, thanks, Wayne. Signing off.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks.